The Pharsalia by Lucan, translated by Sir Edward Ridley. Book VII. The Battle. Ne'er to the summons of the eternal laws more slowly to the Titan rose, nor drave his steeds, forced by the sky revolving up the heaven with gloomier presage, wishing to endure the pangs of ravished light and dark eclipse, and drew the mists up, not to feed his flames, but lest his light upon Thessalian earth might fall undimmed. Pompeius on that morn, to him the latest day of happy life, in troubled sleep an empty dream conceived. For in the watches of the night he heard innumerable Romans shout his name within his theatre. The benches vied to raise his fame and place him with the gods, as once in youth, when victory was won o'er conquered tribes, where swift Iberus flows, and where Sertorius' armies fought and fled, the West subdued, with no less majesty than if the purple toga graced the car. He sat triumphant in his pure white gown, a Roman knight, and heard the senate's cheer. Perhaps as ills drew near, his anxious soul, shunning the future, wooed the happy past, or, as is wont, prophetic slumber showed that which was not to be, by doubtful forms misleading. Or, as envious fate forbade return to Italy, this glimpse of Rome kind fortune gave. Break not his latest sleep, ye sentinels, let not the trumpet call strike on his ear, for on the morrow's night shapes of the battle lost, of death and war, shall crowd his rest with terrors. Whence shalt thou the poor man's happiness of sleep regain? Happy, if even in dreams thy Rome could see once more her captain. Would the gods had given to thee and to thy country one day yet to reap the latest fruit of such a love, though sure of fate to come. Thou marchest on, as though by heaven ordained in Rome to die. She, conscious ever of her prayers for thee, heard by the gods, deemed not the fates decreed such evil destiny that she should lose the last sad solace of her Magnus' tomb. Then young and old had blent their tears for thee, and child unbidden, women torn their hair, and struck their bosoms, as for Brutus dead. But now no public woe shall greet thy death, as erst thy prayer was heard, but men shall grieve in silent sorrow, though the victor's voice amid the clash of arms proclaims thy fall, though incense smoke before the Thunderer's shrine, and shouts of welcome bid great Caesar hail. The stars had fled before the growing morn, when eager voices, as the fates drew on the world to ruin, round Pompeius' tent, demand the battle signal. What? By those so soon to perish shall the sign be asked? Their own, their country's doom? Ah, fatal rage, that hastens on the hour! No other sun upon this living host shall rise again. Pompeius fears, they cry. He's slow to act, too kind to Caesar, and he fondly rules a world of subject people, but with peace. Such rule were ended. Eastern kings no less, and peoples eager for their distant homes, already murmured at this lengthy war. Thus hath it pleased the gods, when woe impends on guilty men, to make them seem its cause. We court disaster, crave the fatal sword. Of Magnus' camp Pharsalia was the prayer. For Tullius, of all the sons of Rome, chief orator, beneath whose civil rule fierce Catiline at the peace-compelling axe trembled and fled, arose to Magnus' ear, bearing the voice of all. To him was war grown hateful, and he longed once more to hear the Senate's plaudits, and with eloquent lips he lent persuasion to the weaker cause. Fortune, Pompeius, for her gifts to thee, asks this one boon, that thou shouldst use her now. Here at thy feet thy leading captains lie, and here thy monarchs, and a suppliant world entreats thee prostrate for thy kinsmen's fall. So long shall Caesar plunge the world in war? Swift was thy tread when these proud nations fell. How deep their shame, and justly should delay now mar thy conquests. Where thy trust in fate? Thy fervor where? Ingrate, dost dread the gods, or think they favor not the Senate's cause? Thy troops unbidden shall the standards seize and conquer, thou in shame be forced to win. If at the Senate's orders, and for us, the war is waged, then give to us the right to choose the battlefield. Why dost thou keep from Caesar's throats the swords of all the world? The weapon quivers in the eager hand, scarce one awaits the signal. Strike at once, or without thee the trumpets sound the fray. Art thou the Senate's comrade, or her lord? We wait your answer. But Pompeius groaned. His mind was adverse, but he felt the fates opposed his wish, and knew the hand divine. Since all desire it, and the fates prevail, so let it be, your leader now no more. I share the labors of the battlefield. Let fortune roll the nations of the earth in one red ruin. Myriads of mankind see their last sun today. Yet, Rome, I swear, this day of blood was forced upon thy son. Without a wound, the prizes of the war might have been thine, and he who broke the peace in peace forgotten. Whence this lust for crime? Shall bloodless victories in civil war be shunned, not sought? We've ravished from our foe all boundless seas and land. His starving troops have snatched earth's crop half grown, in vain attempt their hunger to appease. They prayed for death, sought for the sword thrust, and within our ranks were fain to mix their lifeblood with your own. Much of the war is done. The conscript youth, whose heart beats high, who burns to join the fray, though men fight hard in terror of defeat, the shock of onset need no longer fear. Bravest is he who promptly meets the ill when fate commands it, and the moment comes, yet brooks delay and prudence. And shall we, our happy state enjoying, risk it all? Trust to the sword the fortunes of the world? Not victory, but battle ye demand. Do thou, O fortune of the Roman state, who madest Pompeius guardian, from his hands take back the charge grown weightier, and thyself commit its safety to the chance of war. Nor blame nor glory shall be mine today. Thy prayers unjustly, Caesar, have prevailed. We fight. What wickedness, what woes on men, destruction on what realms this dawn shall bring! Crimson with Roman blood yon stream shall run. Would that, without the ruin of our cause, the first fell bolt hurled on this cursed day might strike me lifeless! Else this battle brings a name of pity or a name of hate. The loser bears the burden of defeat. The victor wins, but conquest is a crime. Thus to the soldiers, burning for the fray, he yields, forbidding, and throws down the reins. So may a sailor give to the winds control upon his bark, which, driven by the seas, bears him an idle burden. Now the camp hums with impatience, and the brave man's heart, with beats tumultuous, throbs against his breast, and all the host had standing in their looks the paleness of the death that was to come. On that day's fight 'twas manifest that Rome and all the future destinies of man hung trembling, and by weightier dread possessed. They knew not danger. Who would fear for self, should ocean rise and whelm the mountain tops, and sun and sky descend upon the earth in universal chaos? Every mind is bent upon Pompeius and on Rome. They trust no sword until its deadly point glows on the sharpening stone. No lance will serve till straitened for the fray. Each bow is strung anew, and arrows chosen for their work fill all the quivers. Horsemen try the curb, and fit the bridle rein, and whet the spur. If toils divine with human may compare, 'twas thus when Phlegra bore the giant crew. In Aetna's furnace glowed the sword of Mars. Neptunus' trident felt the flame once more, and great Apollo, after Python's stain, sharpened his darts afresh. On Pallas' shield was spread anew the dread Medusa's hair, and broad Cecilia trembled at the blows of Vulcan forging thunderbolts for Jove. Yet fortune failed not, as they sought the field, in various presage of the ills to come. All heaven opposed their march. Portentous fire in columns filled the plain, and torches blazed. And thirsty whirlwinds, mixed with meteor bolts, smote on them as they rode, whose sulphurous flames perplexed the vision. Crests were struck from helms, the melted sword blade flowed upon the hilt. The spear ran liquid, and the hurtful steel smoked with a sulphur that had come from heaven. Nay more, the standards, hid by swarms of bees innumerable, weighed the bearer down, scarce lifted from the earth, bedewed with tears. No more of Rome the standards, or her state, and from the altar fled the frantic bull. No more to fields afar, nor was a victim found to grace the sacrifice of coming doom. But thou, Caesar, to what gods of ill didst thou appeal? What furies didst thou call? What powers of madness and what Stygian kings, whelmed in the abyss of hell, didst favor gain by sacrifice in thine impious war? Strange sights were seen, or caused by hands divine, or due to fearful fancy. Haemus' top plunged headlong in the valley. Pindus met with high Olympus, while at Osa's feet red ran Babeus, and Pharsalia's field gave warlike voices forth in depth of night. Now darkness came upon their wondering gaze, now daylight pale and wan, their helmets wreathed in pallid mist. The spirits of their sires hovered in air, and shades of kindred dead passed flitting through the gloom. Yet to the host, conscious of guilty prayers which sought to shed the blood of sires and brothers, earth and air, distraught, and horrors seething in their breasts, gave happy omen of the end to come. Was strange that peoples whom their latest day of happy life awaited, if their minds foreknew the doom, should tremble with affright? Romans who dwell by far Araxes' stream, and Tyrian Gades, in whatever clime, 'neath every sky, struck by mysterious dread, were plunged in sorrow, yet rebuked the tear, for yet they knew not of the fatal day. Thus on Euganean hills, where sulphurous fumes disclose the rise of Apenus from earth, and where Timavus broadens in the meads, an augur spake, "This day the fight is fought. The arms of Caesar and Pompeius meet to end the impious conflict. or he saw the bolts of Jupiter predicting ill, or else the sky discordant, or the space of heaven from pole to pole, or else, perchance, the sun was sad and misty in the height, and told the battle by his wasted beams. By nature's fiat, that Thessalian day passed not as others. If the gifted sense of reading portents had been given to all men had known Pharsalia. Gods of heaven, how do ye mark the great ones of the earth? The world gives token of their weal or woe. The sky records their fates. In distant climes, to future races shall their tale be told, or by the fame alone of mighty deeds had in remembrance, or by this my care, borne through the centuries, and men shall read in hope and fear the story of the war, and breathless pray, as though it were to come, for that long since accomplished, and for thee. Thus far, Pompeius, shall that prayer be given. Reflected from their arms, the opposing sun filled all the slope with radiance as they marched in ordered ranks to that ill-fated fight, and stood arranged for battle. On the left, thou, Lentulus, had charge, 2 legions there, the 4th and bravest of them all, the 1st, while on the right, Domitius, ever staunch, though fates be adverse, stood in middle line, the hardy soldiers from Cilician lands, in Scipio's care, their chief in Libyan days, today their comrade. By Enipius' pools, and by the rivulets, the mountain troops of Cappadocia, and loose of rein, thy squadrons, Pontus, on the firmer ground, Galatians, tetrarchs, and the greater kings, and all the purple-robed, the slaves of Rome. Numidian hordes were there from Afric shores, there Creta's host, and Itureans found full space to wing their arrows. There the tribes from brave Iberia clashed their shields, and there Gaul stood arrayed against her ancient foe. Let all the nations be the victor's prize, none grace in future a triumphal car. This fight demands the slaughter of a world. Caesar that day, to send his troops for spoil, had left his tent, when on the further hill, behold, his foe descending to the plain. The moment asked for by 1,000 prayers is come, which puts his fortune on the risk of imminent war, to win or lose it all. For burning with desire of kingly power, his eager soul ill brooked the small delay this civil war compelled, each instant lost, robbed from his due. But when at length he knew the last great conflict come, the fight supreme, whose prize the leadership of all the world, and felt the ruin nodding to its fall, swiftest to strike, yet for a little space his rage for battle failed. The spirit bold, to pledge itself the issue, wavered now. For Magnus' fortunes gave no room for hope, though Caesar's none for fear. Deep in his soul such doubt was hidden as with mien and speech that augured victory. Thus the chief began. Ye conquerors of a world, my hope in all, prayed for so oft, the dawn of fight is come. No more entreat the gods, with sword in hand seize on our fates, and Caesar in your deeds. This day is great or little, this the day for which I hold, since Rubicon was passed, your promise given. For this we flew to arms, for this deferred the triumphs we had won, and which the foe refused. This gives you back your homes and kindred and the peaceful farm, your prize for years of service in the field. And by the fates' command, this day shall prove whose quarrel juster, for defeat is guilt, to him on whom it falls. If in my cause, with fire and sword, ye did your country wrong, strike for acquittal. Should another judge this war, not Caesar, none were blameless found. Not for my sake this battle, but for you, to give you, soldiers, liberty and law, 'gainst all the world. Wishful myself for life, apart from public cares, and for the gown that robes the private citizen, I refuse to yield from office till the law allows your right in all things. On my shoulders rest all blame, all power be yours, nor deep the blood between yourselves and conquest. Grecian schools of exercise and wrestling send us here, their chosen darlings to await your swords, and scarcely armed for war, a dissonant crowd, barbaric, that will start to hear our trump, nay, their own clamor. Not in civil strife your blows shall fall. The battle of today sweeps from the earth the enemies of Rome. Dash through these cowards and their vaunted kings. One stroke of sword and all the world is yours. Make plain to all men that the crowds who decked Pompeius' 100 pageants scarce were fit for one poor triumph. Shall Armenia care who leads her masters, or barbarians shed one drop of blood to make Pompeius chief, or our Italia? Rome, 'tis Rome they hate, and all her children, yet they hate the most those whom they know. My fate is in the hands of you, mine own true soldiers, proved in all the wars we fought in Gallia. When the sword of each of you shall strike, I know the hand. The javelin's flight to me betrays the arm that launched it hurtling. And today, once more, I see the faces stern, the threatening eyes, unfailing proofs of victory to come. E'en now the battle rushes on my sight. Kings trodden down and scattered senators fill all the ensanguined plain, and peoples float unnumbered on the crimson tide of death. Enough of words. I but delay the fates. And you who burn to dash into the fray, forgive the pause. I tremble with the hopes thus finding utterance. I ne'er have seen the mighty gods so near, this little field alone dividing us. Their hands are full of my predestined honors. For 'tis I, who when this war is done shall have the power o'er all that peoples, all that kings enjoy, to shower it where I will. But has the pole been moved, or in its nightly course some star turned backward, that such mighty deeds should pass? Here on Thessalian earth today we reap of all our wars the harvest or the doom. Think of the cross that threats us, and the chain, limbs hacked asunder, Caesar's head displayed upon the rostra, and that narrow field piled up with slaughter. For this hostile chief is savage Sulla's pupil. 'Tis for you, if conquered, that I grieve. My lot apart is cast long since. This sword, should one of you turn from the battle ere the foe be fled, shall rob the life of Caesar. O ye gods, drawn down from heaven by the throes of Rome, may he be conqueror who shall not draw against the vanquished an inhuman sword, nor count it as a crime if men of Rome preferred another's standard to his own. Pompeius' sword drank deep Italian blood, when cabined in yon space the brave man's arm no more found room to strike. But you, I pray, touch not the foe who turns him from the fight, a fellow citizen, a foe no more. But while the gleaming weapons threaten still, let no fond memories unnerve the arm, no pious thought of father or of kin, but full in face of brother or of sire drive home the blade. unless the slain be known, your foes account his slaughter as a crime. Spare not our camp, but lay the rampart low, and fill the fosse with ruin. Not a man but holds his post within the ranks today. And yonder tents, deserted by the foe, shall give us shelter when the rout is done. Scarce had he paused, they snatched the hasty meal, and seized their armor, and with swift acclaim welcomed the chief's predictions of the day, tread low their camp when rushing to the fight, and take their post, nor word nor order given. In fate they put their trust. Nor hadst thou placed all Caesars there, all striving for the throne of Rome their city, had their serried ranks with speedier tread dashed down upon the foe. But when Pompeius saw the hostile troops move forth in order and demand the fight, and knew the gods' approval of the day, he stood astonied, while a deadly chill struck to his heart, omen itself of woe, that such a chief should at the call to arms thus dread the issue. But with fear repressed, borne on his noble steed along the line of all his forces, thus he spake. The day your bravery demands, that final end of civil war ye asked for, is at hand. Put forth your strength, your all. The sword today does its last work. One crowded hour is charged with nations' destinies. Whoe'er of you longs for his land and home, his wife and child, seek them with sword. Here in mid-battlefield the gods place all at stake. Our better right bids us expect their favor. They shall dip your brands in Caesar's blood, and thus shall give another sanction to the laws of Rome, our cause of battle. If for him were meant an empire o'er the world, had they not put an end to Magnus' life? That I am chief of all these mingled peoples and of Rome disproves an angry heaven. See here combined all means of victory. Noble men have sought, unasked, the risks of war. Our soldiers boast ancestral statues. If to us were given a Curius, if Camillus were returned, or patriot Decius to devote his life, here would they take their stand. From furthest east all nations gathered, cities as the sand, unnumbered, give their aid. A world complete serves 'neath our standards. North and south and all who have their being 'neath the starry vault, here meet in arms conjoined. And shall we not crush with our closing wings this paltry foe? Few shall find room to strike, the rest with voice must be content to aid, for Caesar's ranks suffice not for us. Think from Rome's high walls the matrons watch you with their hair unbound. Think that the Senate whore, too old for arms, with snowy locks outspread, and Rome herself, the world's high mistress, fearing now, alas, a despot, all exhort you to the fight. Think that the people that is and that shall be joins in the prayer, in freedom to be born, in freedom die, their wish, if mid these vows be still found place for mine, with wife and child, so far as imperator may, I bend before you suppliant. Unless this fight be won, behold me exile, your disgrace, my kinsman's scorn. From this 'tis yours to save. Then save, nor in the latest stage of life let Magnus be a slave. Then burned their souls at these his words, indignant at the thought, and Rome rose up within them, and to die was welcome. This sword, should one of you turn from the battle ere the foe be fled, shall rob the life of Caesars. O ye gods, drawn down from heaven by the throes of Rome, may he be conqueror who shall not draw against the vanquished an inhuman sword, or by the fame alone of mighty deeds had in remembrance, or by this